My name's Liam, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. It's everyone's favorite feel good character from cricket Twitter, but he's, of course, much more than just a feel good character. It's WG Rumblepants. Hello, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Yes. No, I mean, it's really an honor because you are one of the most recognizable persons on cricket Twitter, and you are also a champion for the club game, for very different clubs, and a Red Bull advocate. Um, and yeah, very important in a time where there is so much, well, let's call it what it is, bullshit flying around on social media. Um, it's always good to have people that provide respite from that. But you are basically here because I want to know a bit more about you. How did you come to be this, um, this recognizable? I would say. Tell us a bit more about you.
Thank you for that introduction. That's very kind of you. I think the honest answer is it all happened entirely by accident.
Mm.
The stuff I post on Twitter, just the stuff that matters to me, particularly the club game and encouraging diversity within the game, and particularly Red Bull cricket.
Mm.
In terms of the WG character, that really just came from my interest in WG Grace as a towering figure in the Victorian game. Read a lot about him and decided one year to grow the beard out, and that was going to Lords that year in September for a test against the West Indies. And I just dressed up just for fun. And people seemed to enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I met a few Australian fans who recognised the character, and we had some banter, and it sort of continued from there. And everyone likes, a character, don't they? So I guess people perhaps gravitated towards my account because of that character, and then hopefully stayed with me because of some of the other stuff that I post and the beautiful cricket grounds.
Yes.
I just like I try and be balanced in my views on things. There are lots of extreme views on Twitter, and there are lots of sort of binary views one way or another. It's always right or wrong, and I try and sort of see the shades of grey in the middle.
Yes.
So yeah, and Red Bull cricket is just something I really love. I mean, I'm never happier than spending a day at a club game or a county ground, watching a match unfold over the course of a day. And I love the time that county cricket gives you to chat with people, just to sort of unwind. I find it incredibly relaxing.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I'm speaking from a position where I have never been to a red ball cricket match in any test playing nation. But yeah, I can totally understand that, and I think it's really kind of you to give other people the chance to appreciate this kind of, well, it's, yeah, what would you call it? It's a bit of a circus cricket, and yeah, there's characters in that, and it's really kind of you to go to those lengths, to give people something to relate to enjoy the spectacle a bit more, I would say.
It's I mean, cricket needs characters, and it's the big characters that I think ultimately draw people into the game. And a lot of people fell in love with cricket here in the early '80s, watching Ian Botham
Yes.
and David Gower do their thing. And the cricket world was full of big characters at that time. You had all the West Indian team who were obviously dominant for a long time, and players like Imran Khan. And so those characters draw people into the game, and that's happening now with players like Kohli and
Yeah, absolutely.
and Ben Stokes and others. And I mean, look at what Shahid Khan has done this match. That photo of him bleeding from the chin, I think, will be iconic again.
Yes.
And he's really turned Pakistan's fortunes around, along with Noman Ali. So it's the characters that people enjoy, and it's funny because one of the other things that I liked growing up was professional wrestling. I
Oh, yes.
liked all those characters, Hulk Hogan and The Rock, and those are big characters that draw people in and interest. And I think cricket's become, or with T20, that spectacle, that the music, the lights, and it goes back to the days of the gladiators, doesn't it? People like big characters that they can get behind and relate to, and I think that's true in all the sport, really.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up there, because I have actually noticed that I think mostly Indian commentators or writers on the game, they all seem to share that interest in professional wrestling. I think it's I think it was Bharat Sundaresan who is a is a commentator for Australian radio, who wrote for Crick Info. He wrote books, and he tends to really like his WWE comparisons whenever there's a cricket match going on.
Well,
And I
more than that, I think he's actually been in the ring now as well. I think I saw some footage of him a little while ago at a wrestling event where he got in the ring and was almost sort of like an old-fashioned wrestling manager. He was, playing about the bad guy and winding
oh,
up the crowd. So yeah,
that's
so there's a bit of crossover,
yeah.
and you'll get people on podcasts like Greg James and Felix White. I
Mm,
know they like their wrestling. I think
okay.
Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins like their wrestling. So you're right, there is some crossover.
Yeah, they're interesting, and casting Bharat Sundaresan as a heel is actually genius, because he's probably the most cuddly guy there is
Exactly.
out in the world in cricket land. Um, yeah.
Everyone likes playing the bad guy occasionally, though, don't they? It's fun.
Yes, of course. And I can totally understand it. And I guess the only thing that would could be made better is if Mel Farrell were his opposing manager, and they would have a kind of a feud for a few weeks over on some wrestling shows.
Oh, that would be
That
great.
would be great.
Yeah, I mean, talking of sort of happy people that sort of spread goodwill in cricket, she's another one, isn't she? She's a joy,
Yes.
and she's so knowledgeable. And she did some commentary for some of the county streams this
Mm.
year, and it was great to have her on and hear her views. And that's one of the things with the live streams with the counties now, all going out on YouTube. You get all of these different people from within the game having an opportunity
Mm.
to do that kind of commentary, and for her to be over in the UK in our summer, and it's great. Actually, it's also given some people that I know a chance to get into commentary.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity, and hopefully those streams will continue. I think there's a debate now about whether they will stay free to air, and I know some counties are trialing sort of putting behind a paywall. I'm not sure I fully agree that that's a good idea, because I think that's your shop window to the world, really,
Mm.
those live streams. But I do understand that counties are looking to diversify their income streams, and so
Mm.
rightly looking at the best way to do that. But yeah, it's great because you can be all over the world. You can be in
Yep.
India and watching county cricket, which is great.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's a really interesting debate to have, I would say, about putting these streams behind paywalls, because I think this is a very, very good outcome that was made possible by technology, the democratization of punditry, of media, of coverage, because the barrier to entry has been lowered by affordable cameras, internet connection for everyone. It's basically how I got into it during the pandemic. Everyone and their mother started a podcast, and my thing was, yes, you can complain about there not being any German coverage of cricket, online or otherwise, or you can get your stuff together and do it yourself. And
Yeah.
I think in the long run, um, it will be detrimental if you would put it behind a paywall, because you want you want to get people into the game, and the lower the barrier to entry, for entry, the better to get people in the door, so to speak.
Yeah, particularly given that there is so little county cricket on television, whether that's free to air
Yeah.
or behind the Sky cable. I mean, Sky have got all the rights, and they've got a cricket channel. They just choose not to show county cricket. So if you want to introduce your kids to county cricket, you either have to take them along, or now you can watch on YouTube. But at least there is that crucial resource, because I'm a firm believer in if you can't see the product, if it is
Yeah.
too much behind a paywall or tickets are too expensive, then that's going to be detrimental for the game. And there's been some outcry within the last couple of months about the ticket prices for Lords for the India Test next year, where the standard ticket I think was £175. Well, that's a lot of money to spend on a day of sport for an individual. But if you're looking to take your family, or if you're travelling from a long way away, that sort of by the time it mounts up, you're looking at the cost of a family holiday. So we have to be really careful about getting the balance right between obviously bringing enough money into the game to sustain it, but also sustaining the fan interest. There has to be an audience, and if you're making cricket too elite because it's too expensive, then it's going to shrink the game in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, and as you were saying, 175 quid for a day at Lords. I think Andy Ryan from Reverse Web Radio talked about it, that he paid, I think, £100 for a day at a test match at Lords, and he said that a membership for Middlesex was about twice that, so £200 a year. So that's that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean that's partly why I'm always keen to remind people that actually county cricket is there, and it's really really good quality. And I think I paid 260 for my membership of the Oval, and that gets you into all of the county games. It gets you into the women's county games. It gets you into the 100 as well, if you want to go and watch the 100. So in terms of a year's cricket, I think that's really good value.
Absolutely.
But also, if you can't get to a first class county, or you don't live nearby, go along and watch your local club. I mean, there's some really good club cricket out there, and even the bad club cricket is entertaining. And often it costs nothing other than whatever you want to spend in the bar. And I think go down to your local clubs, because there's nothing better than a warm afternoon in good company, and you will make friends. But you'll be welcomed with open arms, probably. Within a local club, and then once you're kind of there and your foot in the door, you might well be asked to sort of do things and become part of that community, as I was at my club. And that's very very rewarding, actually. So yeah, come along, watch your local clubs in the summer, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have to agree with something Alex Bowden said about cricket, and I think that's very very relevant to club cricket, because he says people think that they want to see the best of the best battling it out amongst themselves. But what people really want, or when cricket is at its best, is when it's shoddy, it's amateurish, and masquerading as elite sport nonetheless. Something to that effect.
I think it's also about community and that shared experience. We all want to find our tribe, the people that make us feel like we belong, and that have shared likes and passions. And when you find that locally at your local club, and you become part of that community, or your local county, or wherever, it seems easier to find that in that sort of local setting than a test match, which is wonderful. A test match is great, but you are just sort of one person amongst a much bigger crowd.
Yeah.
So you might be lucky and see an iconic moment in sport, but it's not quite the shared experience in a way it is when you're part of a community.
Yes.
And so that becoming involved in my local club has been very rewarding. I help sort of run the whole of the junior section. We have some very dedicated managers. We manage various age group teams, but I sort of hover above them and sort of coordinate all of that. And the best part of my week in the summer is going up to the club on a Sunday morning when we run our training for our
some connection issues again.
you think, well, this is grow and sustain the game, and it's just lovely to see.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, cricket is a sport that lends itself to these kinds of communal experiences, I think, because it's not that fast paced generally. If you're not talking about a T20 or a T10 or something like that. And I mean, it's a sport that has a lunch break, has a tea break. You go there with your friends, and you plan on spending a whole day. So that is something that I think sets it apart from something like football or the rugby or something like that. And yeah,
It's pure escapism, isn't it? You can spend a whole day not
yes,
thinking about the things in your life that bother you,
yes,
and it gives you time to contemplate, to have a conversation. I mean, T20 is great, and if
yeah,
you're in a big T20 atmosphere and the crowds wild, it's it's the adrenaline gets going, doesn't it? And it's exciting, but you can't have that excitement all the time. It's a bit like having the sugary sweets. You can't live on the sugary sweets. You need the full meal, and I think a day of watching Red Bull cricket gives you that. And there are moments.
your audio is cutting out again. I can't hear you. Your audio is cutting out. Yes,
Am I back?
yes, you are back.
Okay, sorry. I'll try and redo that bit. Um, with cricket, there's a bit of something for everybody. Whether you like 20 or you like spending a day watching a one-day match or the 100 or T10, there's so many different forms of the game that there's something for everybody, or for any taste of any given day. We all like, different things at different times. So it's a wonderful game because you haven't got that in many other sports. There probably are too many formats and
Yeah,
probably a bit going on in the schedule. And sometimes it's hard as a fan to keep up with that and to stay interested in everything that's happening because it is now so fast paced. But we're very lucky too because on any given day, anywhere around the world, you can normally turn something on and be watching some cricket.
yes, exactly. But yeah, I think the difference between a red ball match and a white ball match is because, of course, the white ball stuff is exciting. We've had the women's T20 World Cup recently, and a very very thrilling final there between the White Ferns and South Africa, and it's all great, but it's a bit more like a traditional sporting event, like a traditional match, and I think the great stuff is that there is also the other side. As you said, there is something for everyone, but people can really gather around a team for the red ball stuff in a way that I think the white ball stuff doesn't really provide.
Maybe not in this country. I mean, it obviously does in India because of
Yeah.
the huge number of people that are going to watch those matches and paying for the matches on TV. So I think that maybe is a cultural thing in different places around the world. I think the UK is still predominantly interested in red ball cricket. That may be changing, and county fans are so passionate, and
Mm.
not so many paid up county members as we might like now, and
Yeah.
certainly in some parts of the country. But they're very knowledgeable and very passionate, and Test cricket is still what brings in most money for Sky. I mean, that's kind of, that's what they're paying the ECB for predominantly. But in different parts of the world, it's different, and I think we have to recognise that. And culturally, people gravitate in different directions. So I think in India, you do get a sense that communities build up around those IPL franchises, and people are very, very passionate about it, and they find their tribe, supporting Chennai Super Kings in the way that maybe people in England do supporting Surrey or Yorkshire. So I just think it depends where you've grown up and what you've been exposed to, and will be interesting to see whether IPL teams buying into 100 franchises kind of creates that kind of tribal atmosphere around those teams as the years go by.
Yeah, that's an interesting development, I think, because I don't know if the 100 or if the ECB are really aware of what that means if the Indians buy into the 100, because they don't want something that's not T20 cricket. I think the 100 might just turn into the T20 franchise league that everyone expected the ECB to start.
It may do. I think the format has always been a red herring to me, and complaining about whether it's 100 balls or T20. I suspect you're right, and eventually it will become a T20. And ultimately, I don't think the format is either here or there when it comes to the more fundamental issues that people have with the 100, which is it's sort of diverting attention away from the core county clubs. And did we really need a different competition in a different format, which squeezes the schedule further for the existing teams? I can see arguments why the ECB went down that route. It's not the route I would have gone down. I think there would have been other ways to achieve a similar sort of thing. You could look at the women's game as it was with the regional teams. We could have gone maybe down that route instead. I think what people object to is obviously the very long-standing relationships they have with those county teams, and they're sort of being sidelined. And I think there is suspicion that the ECB would prefer fewer counties, or perhaps maybe go to a system where you've got 6 to 8 top counties and tiers below that, and people are very suspicious about that. And the way that the 100 sale proceeds are being divided between the hosting clubs and non-hosting clubs, I think has increased that suspicion, because it seems to exacerbate the concern about there being a two-tier system between the hosting clubs and those who are not hosting. And it didn't have to be that way, and that's a shame, because a lot of people have got into cricket through the 100, including my own daughter, who wasn't really interested before but really was excited by the 100, and she's a cricket fan now, not just a fan of the 100. So it was sort of her gateway drug, and there'll be other kids across the country who have got into cricket in a similar way. But it's such a shame. It's caused so much division within the community, because it's one of the most polarizing issues there is, I think, out there in cricket at the moment in the UK.
Yeah, and I think that was the breaking point between for Kevin Peterson, who viciously sent his followers to Annie Chave over this issue, which was a very, very bad move, I would say.
Annie's a great champion of county cricket, and I've known her for a number of years, but I think she's sort of acknowledging now that probably the fight on the 100 is lost. It's all the campaign that people have done over the years to scrap the 100. It hasn't achieved very much, unfortunately, for those who wanted that. the ECB have very much stuck to their guns. I mean, I still don't really understand, and I don't think many people understand, what these investors are going to get out of investing in the 100. Where's the money coming from that are going to pay them the income stream to justify their investment? Because they're only going to get so much out of sponsorship and other revenue streams. Is the TV deal really going to grow so much as to allow them to get their money back? Given that Sky are ultimately the only player in the domestic market, nobody else at the moment seems interested in spending what would be a huge amount of money to broadcast live cricket, because it costs a fortune. It's a travelling circus. You need, multiple TV trucks and all the cameras, and it costs a lot. It's one thing for BT Sport to pick up the live stream from another country because it doesn't cost very much, but to broadcast cricket in this country is expensive. And so when the TV deal comes up for renewal again, and if Sky are the only player in the market, why are they going to pay any more than they're currently paying now? There's no competition for them. So I'm not sure where all this income is going to come from to justify the investment in the 100 that people are considering making at the moment.
Well, I think the English domestic market is not where the money is coming from, and I think it's not where these investors, primarily from India, from the Indian subcontinent, are expecting the revenue to come from. I think these people probably have the ear of the BCCI. Maybe they know something we don't regarding letters of no objection for Indian players. And I think I guess they reckon that if the BCCI supports them in getting into the 100 and issuing these no objection certificates for Indian players, there is a huge revenue stream probably for
it would
Indian TV rights.
Be unprecedented, though, wouldn't it? It's never happened before,
yes.
Even with other where IPL franchises have invested.
Yes.
So I agree, that would be a game changer and potentially open the Indian TV market to the 100, maybe. But yeah, I mean, we don't know that yet. And if you're looking at past precedents on that, would say the SA20, that hasn't happened with Indian players.
Yes.
Despite IPL franchises investing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yep. But this time it's different because there have been reports on credible websites like ESPN Cricket Info talking about a Saudi investment in cricket, a Saudi league, Saudi Arabia, and they had sources that said that the BCCI would be open to a cooperation with the Saudis and to let Indian players actually play in a potential future Saudi Arabian T20 league. So that's I think that's a watershed moment. Because of course in South Africa there are no Indian players, even though there are a lot of Indian investors in the CPL. They have their money there. In the major league cricket, is it already major league cricket or is it still minor league cricket in the USA? Yeah. There's the New York Mumbai Indians, which is one of the more nonsensical team names I've ever heard. But there are no Indian players there. But I think the possibility being put on the table for the Saudis, that's probably something that might change all these competitions. Because if Indian investors put money into leagues in other countries, and the BCCI possibly granting letters of no objection to Indian players for that, that's a real game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and maybe that's what investors are hoping. So we'll have to see how that all unfolds. Of course, you've got Indian franchises now investing not only in potentially in the 100, but also potentially in county clubs as well, with the news of the sale of Hampshire. So we are at a crossroads, I think, in the English game. I think the fight on the 100 has firmly been lost by those who objected to it. It's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. So the schedule is not going to get any easier, and county cricket probably will still end up being squeezed. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years, part of trying to solve the schedule involves reducing the number of county games still further. And people, probably won't like that very much. But we also have to remember that in the domestic cricket market, county fans are just one sort of relatively small section of the people who watch cricket. There are a lot of people who watch Test cricket and international T20 and women's cricket who don't watch any county cricket. So county cricket fans are passionate and knowledgeable, and they can have quite a loud voice, and they have quite a bit of power within their own clubs as to the direction those clubs go forward, because they have a veto power. But they are just one group within cricket, and the ECB has to try and get the balance right between protecting the county game and Test cricket, but also actually creating a sustainable future and growing it amongst new fans.
Yes.
So it's a difficult.
Yeah, it has always been very, very difficult. And if you look around, or if you listen to other cricket fans, I think the death of Test cricket has been bemoaned since 1877, probably.
Yeah. I mean, you can look back at old wisdoms and from 100 years ago, and they complain that no one's going to watch county cricket. So you're definitely right in that regard, and here we all are. And actually, I was at days at the Oval last year, and the Oval is a bit of a unique case because we're in South London, but there were, I think, probably 7,000-8,000 people there in the sunshine. Lots of kids, lots of families, lots of people under 30. So the death of county cricket is not happening anytime soon, I think, but it does need to be looked after, and the powers that be can't take it for granted, because if you don't have county cricket, you don't ultimately have an England Test team, which is still what brings in most of the money.
Yeah. I mean, we have a saying in Germany: Totgesagte leben länger. Those that are said to be dead tend to live the longest.
Hopefully that's true about red ball cricket, because there's lots of people out there at the moment who are keen to suggest it's going to die.
Yes.
Which would be really tragic, because it's special.
Yeah. Yes. And but as you said, it's I mean, let me say it this way. It's a great service that people like you provide to keep the culture alive, to keep people around, to showcase basically all the good stuff about the grassroots that in the end provide the talent, the players that one day might play for England. You are very keen, I think, on photography and art as well, because I know that you digitally paint.
Yes.
And you also showcase the best club grounds from around the country on Twitter. And tell me a bit about how you choose which grounds to feature on those photographs. And do you take them yourselves?
Some I take myself. Largely, I don't, because it would be impossible to get around as many grounds as that. So it's largely photos that I haven't taken. That just started randomly, and I kind of got into the habit of doing it every morning. But ultimately, it's mostly Google searches, and what I tend to do is the ground I posted the previous day. I'll sort of put that in the Google image search, and it will throw up like similar grounds, and so I just sort of and that way. And then sometimes people make suggestions or I stumble across them. It's just a bit of a timeline cleanse for people each day, just to see a nice cricket ground in the height of summer. I enjoy seeing some of these grounds. I've stumbled across grounds that I had no idea where they were, and some pretty and unique grounds all over this country. And we're very lucky here to have such a variety of grounds, some up in Yorkshire amongst the Dale and stone walls, and some down in Devon, next to little streams and church steeples, and it's all quite sort of chocolate box and probably a little bit twee for some people. But I just think it's a little bit of beauty, and I enjoy finding these photos and sharing them with people.
Yeah, and I mean they are essentially, or the distilled essence of the English countryside, from an outsider's perspective. I'm German, and looking at these photos, they are what maybe a bit nostalgic, what we would imagine an English countryside with all the implications of bucolic countryside living and all the classism that might go with it. But that's basically what Germans would imagine England to be. So
yeah, and I think there is a certain nostalgia about it, but I'm quite nostalgic for that village cricket sort of image with the players on green grass under a blue sky wearing white. I just think is one of the most beautiful images that you'll see in the English countryside. It's just to me that's kind of what club cricket and village cricket is. So I enjoy sharing that. It is perhaps a little bit of nostalgia, but I think those images seem to be well received. So I just like sharing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so iconic that actually a German food company produced a rusk called English Tea Time. It's with anise seeds and sugar to dip in your tea. And they chose to use one of those scenes, a painting of a game of cricket in front of an English manor. It's what got me first into cricket when I was a little kid. That image stuck with me.
Well, I'm very lucky because just within walking distance of where I live, there is an English manor called Audley End House, and there's a big stretch of lawn in front of the house, and then a river, and on the other side of the river, on another bit of lawn, it's a cricket ground, small cricket ground, and I walk past there often. And this summer I was there, and my local team, I think it was our third 11, were playing a match there, and funny because the square is right there next to the river, so if you hit a boundary on that side, chances are the ball's going to end up in the river. Also, when cricket isn't being played on the square, that's where the geese who live in the river tend to go. So if you're sliding for to stop a boundary or something, good chance you end up in goose poo.
Oh no.
You take the pictures of the cricket ground with the manor and the river in the background, but what you're not seeing is all the players in their whites with big brown stains up the legs because they've been sliding around in goose poo.
Isn't goose poo green? Kind of greenish?
Well, yeah, it's a variety of colours. But yeah, so players love playing there because it does look so lovely. But I don't they enjoy trying to fish the ball out of the river or sliding around in the goose poo.
Yeah, well, I mean, not much reverse swing probably on that ground, but otherwise that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's a fun place to play and a fun place to watch cricket. So yeah, we are lucky where we are with so many cricket grounds, and certainly cricket grounds that I never knew existed before I started posting those photos. So it's fun to learn about that and to link up with people at clubs as well who want me to showcase their ground for them. Cricket groundsmen can be quite proud of their handiwork. And rightly so, because they put a lot of time into preparing wickets and making grounds. Some of them including our own local groundsman, I think sometimes would rather no cricket is played on the square because he put so much work into it and he doesn't want it to be spoiled. But you know, I have to take my hat off to all cricket groundsmen because they do an awful lot of work and they're the ones that enable the players to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an interesting point you bring up. You said that that some clubs reach out to you. How often does something like that happen? How big? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I just get a DM with a club suggesting a few photos. So yeah, that happens. You know, probably every couple of weeks. I'll get a club suggesting that I showcase their ground, and I can do anything to help them because clubs are always looking for new players. And if I can highlight a lovely ground and people nearby see that and go, actually, I'd like to go down there and see what they're doing, then that's great. I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah,
it's all kind of just part of spreading the word about the game and helping grow the game.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's I think people need to get into that that mindset that there is something new, this newfangled thing called the internet, and I think clubs need to use it better than they do right now to market themselves, to show people that they exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And some clubs are really good at that. I think ultimately many clubs are run by volunteers, so they've only got the time as they've got, and sometimes those volunteers aren't always the youngest people in the community. So you know, you have to sort of make allowances for that too. But yeah, the internet's a great tool for that. And before actually I was running the junior section at my club, I was doing their social media for them, so I kind of know how best to use that. Ultimately, you are as a club only as good as the volunteers you have, and it's about getting as many people as you can to do a little rather than a small number of people doing a lot. And trying to break down that way and making it fit in with people's very, very busy lives so that no one is sort of overwhelmed and breaks down under the pressure of trying to run a club, because some clubs, including my own, are ambitious and they want to both grow the game and have a lot of kids playing cricket, but also be successful at the senior team level. And that takes a lot of work. Ultimately, that involves trying to find sponsorship and trying to bring in overseas players with all of the home office regulations that you have to then comply with, and finding groundsmen and other volunteers to do kind of media stuff or run the bar. So it's a big operation. But it's very rewarding when you're part of something and the club's getting it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I always found it interesting that my perception has always been that Australia is the country with all the clubs, where the level below the professionals is very, very developed. In the UK, you always have the big elephant in the room being the 18 counties. Whereas in Australia, there's a lot more. Well, the clubs are very, very important to Australians. The great cricket clubs and stuff like that in Melbourne and Sydney, they are basically, because they only have 6 state teams, that's where the talent is coming from. And I always had the perception that in England, that's not as much the case.
I think probably right. I mean, I've not been to Australia, but from the players that have been our overseas players at our club, that's the impression I've got. It's a much more intense standard of competition at the top grade level than at the top level of our amateur game and our Premier Leagues. It seems to be a sort of a different younger and playing at a higher standard earlier in Australia. So there are things that we can and should be doing in the future if we really want to sort of be up there at the height of world cricket. And we're probably in some way behind both Australia and certainly India in that regard at the moment. We're still very reliant on private schools to develop our top players, and you're only then getting one demographic through. That's changing now with things like the ACE program, and some of the work that's being done to bring Asian cricketers into the game. But we haven't, I think, got that real intensity of club competition up and down the league structure in the way that I get the impression that they have in Australia.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the telltale signs is that I think Ian Botham went over to Australia to play in grade cricket. He didn't go to play in the Sheffield Shield. He went over to play in the grades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's going to be the challenge for the coming years. Trying to widen the pyramid here at the base to get as many people playing cricket as possible, but then making sure we have enough intensity of competition towards the top of that structure so that we're developing the best players in the world. But you need the base to be as wide as it possibly can be to make sure you're getting all the right people through to make sure that top level is really elite.
Absolutely. Interesting. Do you think that the ECB would really have to change maybe the county system a bit to make the path basically a bit clearer between the local clubs and the counties after that? A bit of an integration of the clubs into a very developed system, into a very clear system.
Yeah, the what was the minor counties, what's now the national counties, is a funny system because not many of them have their own grounds or facilities. They're sort of drawing on local clubs for players. So those players will be both a member of a local club, probably a Premier League club, but also be playing for national counties. So there's some already divided loyalties there. Again, they're largely run by volunteers. They will probably be playing mostly at club grounds rather than their local grounds, maybe at university grounds. So that's not a professionalized structure in the way that it could be.
Yeah.
But to overhaul that is going to take a huge amount of money and a huge amount of effort. And I'm not sure that's where the ECB are focusing at the moment. Or rather, they're not focusing on that. What may be more likely, although I think it would cause further division within the game, is that the current two-league first-class structure in the first division and the second division is possibly split into three divisions. And so you do have say 6 elite clubs and then a second division and a third division. And
a bit then like the Ranji Trophy.
Well, sounds possibly, but I think the concern with that is that the clubs who are in the third division will worry about what that means for them financially, and what that means for them for their supporter base, and so there would have to be a financial structure that was put in place that allowed that system to work for those clubs, and so that they didn't sort of drop off the bottom, as it were, because some of those clubs that might naturally be in the third division are probably the ones who've already got the least money, and will be concerned about sustaining themselves if they're based with sponsorship and other revenue sources, if they're not playing what's perceived to be top level first class cricket.
Yeah, of course. That is of course a very, very real and very justified concern. But I think, on the other hand, people tend to support the clubs they have since childhood.
That's right.
It's a bit like I don't know, Hendo from Guerrilla Cricket. Doesn't matter if Wimbledon is not playing in the Premier League. Hendo will go to the games, and people will go to the games because it's their local club. So I think
that's right. Ultimately, it's about how you grow interest in that club. Partly that making a predictable, sensible schedule, ideally with matches that families can go to at the weekend rather than county matches always sort of happening at a time where only the unemployed and retired people can go, and that's been a problem for some years. This year's been slightly better. There have been more matches at weekend, and what do you know? When you have a match at a weekend, you get more families and children going. Who knew?
Who would have thought?
So yeah, partly a 3-division split. It would reduce the number of matches, but maybe it was help sort out the schedule, so you could have more matches happening at the weekend. And you have to schedule cricket for the audience ultimately, and if you want people to be watching, then you need to schedule it at time when they can go. So there's lots of challenges with the schedule, particularly with the 100 taking up that August window. But there are things that can be done to improve what we've got at the moment. Maybe a streamlining of the blast as well, because that's long and pretty unwieldy, but it's essential as an income source for the counties. So
Absolutely.
No easy answers with the schedule,
No.
but it's not really working for people at the moment.
Yeah, and you talking about the schedule reminds me of the England tour of Pakistan. I think there was there a day on the weekend? A day of play? I think there was one. I think during the second test there was, I think, a Saturday morning, which was so weird to me. I mean, you're trying to make money from the TV rights, and then you schedule the games that no one in England can watch them. What's going on there?
Yeah, I know. And well, obviously, we're not going to get any more cricket this weekend because I think the match finishing in so short a period this morning. So yeah, people are going to have a bit of time on their hands. But yeah, if you want people to watch it, you're going to have to schedule it a bit better, because otherwise, and we could see that in those first 2 tests, it hardly want anyone in the ground either. So.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't there this weekend? I think there's a USA game on either today or on Sunday at, I don't know, 5:30, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, you can all watch that. Don't hate on the associates.
No, you got to love the bit of associate cricket. I mean, how good were the USA in the last World Cup?
That was great. That was great. It was very, very funny, because a lot of the USA players had to inform their employers that no, they can't come to work. They need another week of vacation, because against all odds, they got out of the group stage, of the first group stage. They need to play a bit more cricket. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I talk about growing the game, that doesn't just mean in this country. I'd love cricket to be played more all around the world.
Yeah, I mean,
and countries that you wouldn't expect to play, like the USA, perhaps. I mean, cricket being in the Olympics could be a game changer just because of the funding that unlocks. So we'll have to see how that goes. And you can imagine if China took up cricket in a big way. I mean, that may well shift the power base of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, as you say, the fact that cricket is now again Olympic in 2028 is a real game changer, because speaking here of Germany, you can only get funding from the government for sports if the sport you play is in the Olympics. So that opens a lot of doors for cricket in Germany, because up until now, it has always been funded as a kind of a social program, because it's primarily played by non-resident Indians, Pakistanis, and since the refugee crisis in 2015, in increasing numbers, the players in Germany that play cricket have been Afghan refugees, and the government therefore looked into it. Oh, that's something that's something where integration and exchange between the refugees and the people that already lived here can take place. So we need to fund that as a form of social program. And cricket being in the Olympics makes it much, much easier for the government to fund local clubs, to fund cricket as a social thing, as an integrative measure, stuff like that. And it's starting to get a bit of traction here in Germany as well, because a few days ago the Secretary of Labor was meeting with some Indian Commerce Association here in Berlin. And they did a photo op, and of course he had to play cricket. And there is a photo of the German Secretary of Labor playing a reverse sweep. I would never
Wow.
thought I'd have never thought I'd say those words, but there is actual photographic evidence of Hubertus Heil playing a reverse sweep.
There you go. There we go. And that's well, that's great to hear, actually, though, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to be able to go on holiday to Europe and watch more cricket when I'm in Europe as well. So that would be lovely. And then I could start posting some German cricket grounds. That would be fun.
Well, I can recommend the one in Hanover. It's
Okay.
because it's near the Herrenhäuser Gärten, the gardens of the old Hanoverian royal family, basically. Great baroque gardens, these French style gardens that you see in Three Musketeer movies and stuff like that.
Lovely.
And next to that,
Has it got artificial pitch or
it's
a
an
grass pitch?
it's an artificial pitch. The club, the Hanover Stallions, paid for it themselves and laid it out. Mostly Indian guys in that club. But I was there for some games when I lived in Hanover. It's really amazing. Everyone was so lovely. I took some pictures there for the German cricket board of a workshop they did there. Yeah, really really good. And you are on the boundary and you look over at the pitch, and behind that is the former Royal Garden in Hanover. It's an amazing sight.
And what's the youth cricket system like in Germany? Because when I was speaking to Roberta Moretti Avery, who was the Brazilian women's captain until quite, there's a big push in Brazil to get children involved in cricket, and they're running quite a lot of programs, and I think they've got thousands of kids now playing cricket. So is there anything like that in Germany, or is it still reliant on Indians and Pakistanis and Afghans who have come over, or are you growing it from within as well?
I think we are also growing it from within as well, because of course there is a Bundesliga for cricket in Germany. There is a structure there, and well, there are the traditional sports clubs are also opening cricket or are starting cricket teams. There is a cricket team that is run by Bayern Munich, for example. So the traditional sports clubs are getting into it, and I think that's a really good thing for cricket in Germany, because these people know how that works. That what they have to do to grow the game for the youth, and how to foster talent, stuff like that. So I think that's really 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 good. There are also some exclusively cricket clubs, but I think there is a growing interest in cricket in Germany, which has, by the way, a really really long history. It's been played in Germany since since the middle of the 19th century. Of course, it was brought over by Englishmen in the 19th century. Then there was a bit of a dip in popularity after C.B. Fry unsuccessfully tried to convince Hitler to make Germany a test nation. Then it came back after that during the Cold War, when there was a British Army of the Rhine in Germany, and a lot of their officers obviously played cricket. And in the 80s, students started embracing cricket as kind of a countercultural signifier in Germany. That now we're not doing what our parents did. We are doing the cool thing, and the cool thing being cricket.
Can't get much cooler than that.
No, you definitely can't. But it's not what people would expect, I would say. So and of course now there's a real influx of talent from the subcontinent, from Afghanistan. There was Izzatullah Davlatsai played for Germany. He is, I think, the only German to have ever played in, or the only member of a German cricket team that has ever played in an official ODI, because he had to flee from Afghanistan, from the Taliban, and he was in the Afghan ODI team, and he played for Germany. Only player to play an ODI. Sadly, not for Germany.
And yeah, that's very exciting. I mean, I love seeing associate teams doing well and growing as some things like Ireland and Afghanistan have grown over the years, and I hope the USA can continue on that trajectory. I mean, how great will it be if in 10, 15 years time you could have a series between England and Germany at Lords or something like that. That'd be so much fun. It'll just be another thing for Germany to start beating England in sport, but it would be great to see at the same time, and that's ultimately what I think we'd all like to see, those countries who have not traditionally been playing cricket growing and doing well in it, and everyone likes to see an underdog do well, but actually it's also about growing the game. There may have to be a little bit of an adjustment of the way the money is divided up by the ICC to make that happen. But it's great to see the game growing in places where it, perhaps has not been a mainstream sport before.
Yeah, I was making that joke a few months, I think, ago, to a friend. If England and Germany ever play a test series, we could call the trophy. We need to call the trophy something. Australia versus England is the Ashes, so let's call the trophy for England versus Germany the Rubbles, and I don't care if it's the ones of Dresden or Coventry.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. No, I would be great.
No, don't do that.
Well, no, we might have to put something else, but the passion would definitely be there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I look forward to going to the first England versus Germany T20, because that's invariably what it will be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, it would be a really good time out. I would think. It would be a bit like when England played an ODI against the Netherlands, I think in Amsterdam a few years back. The match where they made 498, I think.
Yes, quite quickly as well as I.
Yeah, and I mean that would be a really big party. That would be great.
Well, that's funny, isn't it? Because Germans, in my experience, are some of the biggest party animals I've ever met when I've been in Germany. And been for a night out, it's been a heavy night. There's been a lot of partying, and Germans definitely know how to have a good time. So I'm sure a sort of 3-match T20 series played in Germany, the Barmy Army would enjoy that. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure the Germans would enjoy the Barmy Army as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. With all the trumpets and the singing, and well, they might have to learn some new songs.
They might have to learn some new songs. Well, do it in Munich, and then there'd be the beer halls as well, and then you definitely get a large Barmy Army contingent. I'm sure they'd enjoy that.
Yeah, And they can actually play at the MCC because of course the Munich Cricket Club is called MCC.
It's MCC. There you go. Yeah, yeah, great. No, I went to Munich briefly once, and had a really good time there. A friend lent me some lederhosen, which was slightly too small. I squeezed into them, and we went to the beer halls in Munich, and it was really good fun.
Yeah, you're lucky that you got lent a pair of lederhosen. They're quite expensive.
They are
800 euros and upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't realize they were that much.
Yeah. But the pitch of the MCC is in the English Garden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just smack dab in the middle of the city.
I have to Google that afterwards.
Yeah, they have a pitch. They have a pitch there. It's the well, it is an English landscape garden.
Okay.
Right in Munich, and they have a pitch there. It's where it's one of the sites everyone knows. It's where they surf in that creek under the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah. That is very iconic. Yeah. So hopefully something can happen there. I will absolutely do my part for that. Help cricket grow in Germany. Absolutely. I mean, this is basically why the channel started originally, because I wanted to tell people or to teach people the history of the game, because I think it's very important to understand what has come before, to appreciate what's happening on the pitch right now, the rivalries, all that stuff, and my way of educating people is just telling them and lowering the bar for entry. Talking to German people, telling German people why the Ashes are important, where they come from, stuff like that. So yeah,
that's great. Well, it's a very rich history of the game, isn't it? And I think that's one of the appealing things about cricket. Even in the winter when there's live cricket to watch. Of course, there's always live cricket to watch these days.
Yeah.
But that history of the game, I'm not sure any other game has inspired so much written work and poetry and art in the way that cricket has. I have my guilty pile of cricket books on the floor next to my bed that I keep buying and haven't yet read. And cricket has so much wonderful literature, and there are so many stories, and it's great how the statisticians can draw on that this hasn't happened since a match in 1920. There is that rich
exactly
history and so many well-versed people in that history to draw on. And there's always there are the big stories, like the characters like Botham and Bradman and Hobbs and Grace, but there are also so many fascinating lesser-known characters that you can think about as well. It's one of the big things about cricket that I like so much is the historical element to it, and all those stories that you can find out about.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking with Andy from Reverse Web Radio about this as well. I think it was Andy. There is a difference between writing on cricket and most other sports, because the difference is if you're a cricket fan, everyone knows what a Wisden looks like. It's the relatively small format, but it's a brick. And there's a lot of text in that. If you're going to look at a German football annual, there is a lot more photos in that. There are iconic photos of goals, of stadia, stuff like that. But there's a lot less text in those. There may be an overview of results by day, stuff like that. But there is not that much comment on the game, on the state of the game, and I think this is fairly unique in cricket, that a Wisden starts with the commentary section and not with "we won, here's the champion," but comment.
No, well, the Wisden editorial is one of those things that journalists now seize on every year, because it's the Wisden editor's view on the future of the game, and it always generates headlines. And I think Wisden editors know that they have that sort of slight power, and it's the moment to actually get across a key message each year, because everyone is focused on that. If you go back and you read some of those Wisden editorials from 50 years ago, it gives you a really interesting snapshot on what the live views were in the game at that time. So it's they're really interesting to read those. And then of course you've got more articles within Wisden than you used to have even 20 years ago. So they're really interesting as a sort of snapshot in time of where the game is at, before you get all to the pages and pages of meticulously compiled statistics, which slightly blow my mind, really. But
yeah, exactly, and that I think is very unique, that you get the written word, the comments on the state of the game, thoughts on where cricket is at before you go to the results, basically in these books. And I think that's quite unique.
Yeah, and some very, very high quality writers as well.
Yeah,
who really know what they're talking about, and express things in often quite beautiful language. So it's I always look forward to the Wisden arriving every year. Have I read it cover to cover? No, certainly not. I'm not sure anyone could claim that, but it's a lovely little moment. It especially always seems to signal that the cricket season has just started. It always coincides with spring here, so it's just another little sort of moment in time that sort of suggests I've got the whole season ahead of me to enjoy. So you get that Wisden editorial, and sort of look forward to that as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's probably one of the upsides of being a cricket fan in Germany, because you don't get that much stuff to buy on Amazon. No video games and stuff like that. But all the Wisdens you get, you can't always guarantee that they have a certain year. But all the stuff you get on Amazon is basically resellers slinging old Wisdens for, I don't know, €2.50 or stuff like that. That's one of the upsides. If you can find the cricket stuff, it's really cheap in Germany.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And so, have you got your own little collection of Wisden?
I own a sadly complete
as well.
I own a sadly complete collection of the Wisden in Indias, the Indian ones.
Yeah,
They stopped publishing those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually.
There you go. Yeah. That's. Yeah.
I recently got the 2006 one because it's a year that's hugely important to my cricket watching. 2005 because it's when I really got into it with the Ashes and all that stuff. And it's so I was looking for it, and I couldn't get it in Germany, and I recently got it. And it was interesting because I had a listener who got into cricket very, very recently. And his sister bought him for his birthday, I think. Bought him the Wisden, the current edition, because he started watching cricket basically last year. And she bought him the Wisden, and he was so overjoyed because it had all the matches from when he first started watching cricket. In that he got into cricket because I think one of the big Ant Studios cricket games was on sale on Steam for £1.50, stuff like that. And he thought, okay, what can go wrong? That's not a lot of money. Let's see what this cricket stuff is all about, and that's how he got into cricket.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way to get into it, isn't it? Actually, because it's
absolutely
you're going from nothing. So it's not even like you watched it at that point. You're sort of learning it via a computer game. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Exactly.
Uh,
He told me
and
that.
and does he? So what does he watch now? Primarily, is it sort of German cricket, or does he watch bits from all over the world?
He does watch bits from all over the world because that is interesting because the BCC no the ICC actually has a website with live streams for a lot of the cricket matches that don't have a distributor in continental Europe. So
Right.
if the TV rights have not been sold in your territory, check out icc.tv because there might actually be a live stream on there.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't obviously watch England test matches in England on there because it's geo blocked. But if there is no broadcaster in your region, the chances are very, very good that the ICC does have a stream for you. And he also watches a lot of the teams that stream their matches on YouTube officially, like Sri Lanka does it, Bangladesh does it, the West Indies do it. You can watch all that stuff in Germany, at least. You can watch all that stuff right there on YouTube. Legally, it's all fine. They stream it
Wow. Okay.
themselves. Yeah.
Good.
And it's basically the official broadcast that they stream to YouTube. I remember. I think it was. What was it? It was England in the West Indies. It was the 77 All Out, I think, series
Yeah.
with Graham Swan on commentary. When was it? 2018? Is it that long ago?
It feels more recent than that, I
Yeah,
think.
around, let's say around 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's still on their YouTube channel, the West Indies. I think in continental Europe you can just watch it. It's the official broadcast. There's Curtly Ambrose on commentary, Graham Swan, stuff like that. Everyone, Nasser Hussain. Yeah, they broadcast that here. So this is a very good. So that's basically what he's watching mostly, and yeah, that's great. And I mean the T20 World Cup was on ICC TV here, at least here in Germany. You could watch that. So I made sure that everyone who listens to the podcast knew that there is a legal live stream for the tournament on the official ICC site.
Well, that's great because if you haven't got a distributor showing it in your territory, then it means that people actually still can watch it, and you need to see it. As I said earlier, you need to see it, fall in love with it. So
yeah, exactly.
that's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this is kind of a good note to end on, because of the time. We have been talking for almost 1.5 hours. Do you have anything to plug? Please do plug your social media. Are you planning on any more podcast appearances? I know you have been on The Bishop and the Bear for Gorilla Cricket. Anything coming up from your side?
No, not really. No, I do little bits with Annie, as you mentioned earlier. I'd like to give the Metronomes a plug, which is the sort of wandering team that I am a part of. It's all about getting people who perhaps haven't got the confidence to go along to their local cricket club, because we know that can be intimidating, or have never played before, or haven't played for years and feel like they would like to dip their foot back into the game. It's a friendly, fun cricket club. Plays probably 5, 6, 7, 8 games a year, something like that, all different parts of the country. It is a properly social cricket club and is meant to be a safe space for anyone.
Yeah.
So you want to get into cricket and you've never had the confidence to join a club, check out the Metronomes, give us a DM, because you'd be very, very welcome to just play one game or as many games as you like, and I can promise you'll have an awful lot of fun. We always start our game when we're fielding, getting the whole team as a slip cordon. And sometimes we've had games where we've actually turned up with 20 players, and we've said to the opposition, can we kind of rotate players on and off, because you've got people with various fitness or disabilities who only maybe want to field for a couple of overs. And I think our biggest slip cordon was 20 people, just for the first ball, and then we play properly. It was always a bit of fun and just a good atmosphere, and we play other clubs of similar mindset. So check out the Metronomes on X.
And I will link everything down in the description box for this video, so you can just click on it. That makes it easier for everyone. I will link everything down below. So
it's all about inclusivity and having a good time and not taking it too seriously. And it's one of those things where ability is irrelevant. It's all about having a great time.
Yeah, I think that's also very, very important. The fun of it. Do it for the love of the game. Everyone.
Oh, that's what it is, isn't it? It's meant to be fun. Why do people play cricket? It's a game. It's a bat and ball game that got a bit silly, because you'd never, if you were inventing a bat and ball game now, come up with cricket. The way it's evolved like that over 100 years. You'd never say, if you're going to throw a ball, you have to throw it with a straight arm. It wouldn't evolve like that now. But that's the beauty of it. It's mad. It's bonkers.
You might actually invent cricket like cricket is today, but you would probably be doing it for a laugh.
It's mad, isn't it? But it's fun, and that's the way it should be. It should be fun. So that's what the Metronomes are about.
Yeah, excellent. Well, once again, Rumble, thank you very, very much for taking the time of your, I'm sure, very busy day. And thank you for talking to me.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening. As you know, if you like this video, leave it a like down below. Maybe leave a subscription for this channel here. That really, really helps a lot. And thanks again, everyone, for all the, for the amazing past 2 weeks we had. Really, this channel has been picked up by the algorithm, I think. And thank you, everyone, for making this possible. So, bye, everyone. Where's my mouse cursor? There it is.